Hi guys, hope you're all good today and welcome to a battle between myself leading the mighty forces of the Beastmen up against Enticity and his Vampire Coast, a faction he's incredibly good with. So this comes from the latest ECL, which is Turin's big tournament that goes on kind of throughout the year. And this is, I think, round one. I'm actually going to pause this battle here quick because you can see the battle gets underway quite quickly. And I actually played in the previous ECL before this one as well, met Enticity and got 2-0'd by him. I think he went on all the way to the semi-finals. So I came up against him in round one again. I was cursing my luck, but I had learned from my previous mistakes. So before we had played Vampire Coast and Dwarfs against me, incredibly good defensive player, keeping those gun lines nice and active. So I decided to bring the Beastmen up against his Vampire Coast to try and kind of swarm him and outmatch him overall. So in the very front, I do have a nice little skirmish corps of Ungor Raiders, so we have 4 units overall. Not the most armor pierce on these guys, not the best, damage or range or accuracy or any of that, but they're cheap and cheerful and they do decent work up against the zombies and okay fire concentration against big targets. Now for our main battle line, we have gone for Gore Herds all the way along the front line, including the Blackhorn Ravengers, the Regiment Renowned version, who just look so much more badass than the original ones. Look how gangster these guys look. But overall, again, going for that big kind of swarm tactic and trying to force my way into the back line. As you can see, I've gone for a little bit of a vanguard as well on the left-hand flank with some Centaurs rolling with some Chaos Warhounds for an added bit of protection. With also some Harpies up in the sky, and I've mirrored this on the other flank as well. So we have Harpies for that back line pressure trying to get on top of those guns, Hounds, and Centaurs. Now, usually what I do with these guys is deploy them right in the far back and swoop in, but I've gone a little bit more defensive my vanguards today. And it's because I was slightly suspicious he was going to try and flip it on me, knowing that we had played before, and go for a bit more of a kind of death squad build, going high and tight with a lot more combat troops. So I was getting ready to support the front line as quickly as possible. In the back here, we do have 3 units of Razorgore Herds, and I brought these just for the reason I explained, that I was a little bit suspicious, perhaps because I had played him quite recently. He was going to mix it up a bit and have some larger monsters and whatnot, and Razorgores actually have fairly decent armor piercing, as we can see here. Up to armor piercing 36, so they do actually do some decent damage. They are anti-infantry, but they do fairly well against the big scary monsters. They do lack a little bit of leadership, however. Now for our leadership core, we have Morga the Shadowgave with, of course, all his summons. His giant, awesome, like little pimp nail claw right there. Big old staff as well, looking horrible. He's just incredibly tanky and definitely one of the most competitive picks for the Beastmen, coming in with those Chaos Spawn summons. We also have a Brave Shaman of Beast here with Manticore Summon and Flock of Doom. As you can see, we do have a summons from Morga. We also have summons from the Brave Shaman, but we do in fact have 20 units, so they're going to be coming in a little bit later in the game than usual. Now let's have a little look at Intensiti's build, and as I had a little sneaky hunch of it, he's gone much more combat focused today. So we have zombie pirate deckhand mobs in the front, and in the back, we do have a couple of units of a zombie pirate gunnery mobs, but the main damage from his army is going to come from this very scary unit of Depth Guard. I really like this pick actually against Beastmen. These guys will tear through pretty much all of my infantry. We have a Morgul Hunter as well, which of course is ethereal, anti-infantry, armor piercing. It's an absolute pain for the Beastmen to deal with who don't have a great deal of magic damage themselves. We also have the Lamprey's Revenge, one of the tankiest units in the game. These guys are the Regiment Round Rotten Promethean gunnery mobs, and I believe they do in fact have regeneration, unless I am very confused. There we go, they have regeneration. Defender, those guys can just pin down troops and stand and fire there all day, especially with a bit of magic support. And we do in fact have some magic support in the form of a vampire fleet captain of vampires here, coming in with Taunt and Invocation the Heck, which of course is really key. Now, normally you'd have that on your Lord, but we do have Luther Harkin up in the sky here, on top of his very nasty and very awesome, though, looking Terror Guys with all the barnacles and whatnot. Look at him just admiring his gun there. And he's going to be coming in with Hornswag, which is a really great debuff. And of course, Death Shriek from the Terror Guys. Now, apart from that, it looks like we also have a Necrofex Colossus up in the sky here, a mobile artillery piece, which is also fairly decent in combat against people like Beastmen, as it does cause terror, big moving terror causing units, as we see with the Morga, the Necroflex Colossus, and Luther Harkin there can cause big problems for the Beastmen. Of course, Beastmen, not the greatest leadership overall, but let's get this battle underway. So it's going to be a little bit of early skirmishing here. Necroflex Colossus does fling a couple of shots, and it looks like he actually misses there and goes a bit short on these Gore Herds, and all our little Ungol Raiders. Going to get some early volleys in before repositioning. Currently just shooting into zombie pirate deck mobs. Not the worst target. I mean, they're cheap and cheerful, but at the same time, they have very little armor, so at least do some decent damage. Ungol Raiders are starting to fall back now as the Gore Herds do move up. Looks like Luthhaken getting deep in there straight away, trying to shut down some of these Ungol Raiders, but the Gore Herds are going to start surrounding them, and the little piggies are on their way to do a bit of assistance. Now, we've already started to collapse on the flanks. We've moved in the Chaos Warhounds, assisting the Centaurs to give a bit of punch for both of them. And we're just trying to crush units on the flanks as quickly as possible. Also, Harpies, it looks like they're swooping back to attack some Scurvy Dogs in the back, as we need the mobility here to keep our range core active. So it looks like Morgul Hunter does charge straight back into his Ungol Raiders attacking them, but there's a huge fight going on in the middle where all our piggies have started to surround Luthhaken and do some pretty damn substantial damage, but at the same time they are getting shot by the Necrofex Colossus, so we're trying to shut that guy down, pushing into the back lines with Gore Herds and trying to surround the enemy as quickly as possible. Harpies are going to start swooping on zombie pirate gunner mobs in the back, and we're just trying to nuke out his character at the moment. Looks like the Ungol Raiders are even trying to help with some early shots in, but as I said before, Razorgor's not the best leadership. They've all started to rampage, and Luthhaken does make a very speedy escape towards the Depth Guard, which is a force we don't really want to be fighting here. And in comes the Morgul Hunter as well, doing some extra damage to this little blob. So the blob fight not going too well for me at the moment, but everything else fairly decent. We have units all on the back on top of these zombie pirate gunner mobs, taking down his range core, and we're using Centaurs in the back as well, just to hunt down Scurvy Dogs where we can to give us that extra mobility in this fight. So we can see some Chaos Warhounds tearing through some zombie pirate deck mobs. And all the Ungol Raiders are still online active, and they're currently trying to focus fire down the Necrofex Colossus. As I said previously, don't do the most damage, but in kind of mass shooting, all those little arrows do add up. Looks like we're in fact now switching to Luthhaken here. Luckily for us, the Lamprey Revenge has been a little bit forgotten about at the moment. We did, I think, pull out of a fight with our Centaurs, and these guys didn't chase, so we're going to be just tickling them a little bit, tickling them with some Ungol Raiders, but not doing really much damage. Of course, they are going to be regenerating pretty hardcore here. Our army is starting to fall apart a little bit. Power of balance is fairly even, but that is because we have summoned a unit of Chaos Spawn here, who are easily going to, well, is a nice little juicy target right here. The Vampire Fleet Captain, decent melee combatant, but we are going to try and snipe him out and take away that healing for our opponent here, as that could be really key going into the late game. So we're trying to goon him out, completely surrounded by these disgusting, horrible Chaos Spawn. We're just going to pound them to death with fleshy hands here and claws and lots of nasty teeth. Morgul, of course, charges in there to help try and assist in that fight as well. For the main blob, we've actually lost, and you can see there's still a lot of vampires kind of floating around. And we do also have some Scurvy Dogs getting an invocation of the Hex, trying to keep them active in our back line. But we have a Brave Shaman and also some Razorgors who should be able to hunt them down and get a lot of our troops back. So the good thing about Beastmen, and even though low leadership and the units do run away a lot, because my opponent doesn't have too many units to chase us down, or the Hounds kind of being defeated early on by Centaurs, we can keep coming back with wave after wave of Beastmen. Looks like he's trying to scare off some Ungols here with a Morgul Hunter. So I did a bit of a misclick there and popped a Flock of Doom on him. Really probably was trying to target that on this big blob as he moved away. Unfortunately, the Chaos Spawn are going to start to disappear soon as they are summoned, but we did manage to destroy that Vampire Fleet Captain, which is absolutely key now, taking out that magical element of my opponent's build. Harpies trying to tie up Luthhaken and the Necrofex Colossus, whilst Blackhorn Ravengers and more Gore Herds do rush back, even Centaurs as well, trying to pin these guys in as our archery corps focuses over here on the Lamprey's Revenge. Starts trying to bring those guys down and assist Morgul over here. So once again, using the Chaos Warhounds and Centaurs comes a little duo, saturating in on top of each other, rolling dirty here and taking down the zombie pirate gunnery mobs. I know they're summoned, but it's nice to get them offline as quickly as possible. You can see a couple of the crabs are starting to flee this main fight here. And the Necrofex Colossus is really low on health. They do pop another huge extended Flock of Doom here, trying to get these Depth Guard and all these other units down as much as possible. So hopefully that might just about be enough to do it and help win this main fight, which we're really struggling in. Brave Shaman up to 36 kills, but done some really nice damage and good value so far. More shots coming in on that Necrofex Colossus. It's tanked so much, and up to 67 kills is pretty decent. We're sending Harpies in as well. You can see Luthhaken trying to protect his investment back here, as that's the only part of range left in his army, really. Well, we do have some zombie pirate gunnery mobs, but they are going to be disappearing fairly shortly. Depth Guard doing a decent job pulling down Centaurs, unfortunately. They are now up to 132 kills, which is crazy good. It looks like in the back line, my opponent is deciding he really needs to shut down these Ungors. Pops in here the Lamprey's Revenge, but we are going to counter-charge with the Razorgor Herds and then split these guys up to try and give a little bit of crossfire. Apart from that, Morgul, pretty tricky situation here. His leadership is starting to struggle a little bit. Luther Harkin going after that kind of assassination attempt on him. Necrofex Colossus taking a little bit of damage here from the Harpies, and that continued shooting throughout the game. He's starting to go down. Even Flock of Doom will do a tiny bit of damage to him. And in the back, you can see, managed to escape with our Ungol Raiders for now. Getting a nice little bit of fire in there. We'll be trying to protect them with the Gore Herds in the back here. So down goes the Necrofex Colossus. Hopefully, it's down to, what, 1,200 health. It looks so tiny amount of health there, but it's such a tanky beast in general. Morgul really starting to struggle, so he does luckily get another Chaos Spawn summon off as he starts to flee. And these guys will start to pound out Luther Harkin and try and really recreate their heroics that they did against the Vampire Fleet Captain earlier and drag that guy down as much as possible. Balance power once again even because of this Chaos Spawn summon, and the Lamprey's Revenge do give up their chase of the Ungol Raiders and come back in this main fight. It's really key that Luther Harkin doesn't get sniped for them here, as Necrofex Colossus does in fact go down to that continued fire from Ungol Raiders and just persistence. And in the back, the Depth Guard have slowly been ground out just through sheer attrition of forces. Plus I believe this unit of Ungol Raiders has been shooting them for quite a while as well. And they are going to go down here. 93 health, 91 health. They are starting to disappear. And yeah, it's going pretty kind of close so far, to be honest. It's pretty hard to call, because there's still really powerful core here. The Lamprey's Revenge still very healthy, even though they are wavering here. And you see some Chaos Spawn getting flung out of combat here, but luckily those guys are unbreakable, so they should fight for quite a while. And this is huge right here. So as you may have noticed, we haven't used any of our Manticore summons yet. And the first one, it does come in. So we're going to be trying to snipe out Luther Harkin as much as possible. Keep everything blobbed up and, you know, force my opponent to defend his lord. And that allows our Ungol Raiders just to constantly fire these shots in. They are trying to snipe out the Lamprey's Revenge as we speak. So in comes the Feral Manticore, trying to pop on top of Luther Harkin. A really nice play by my opponent here. Keeping that Morgul Haunter nearby, and also popping Hornswaggle down, reducing the melee defense, armor and speed of that Feral Manticore, and trying to use these crabs as a bit of a buffer between it and Luther Harkin. So it is struggling a little bit in there, but once again, it's doing what I wanted to do and keeping all these forces pinned in, allowing all of my kind of, you know, retreating and broken troops to rally, come back into the fray, do a decent bit of damage, and get all these Ungol Raiders in decent positions. So constantly firing in here, really trying to snipe out the Lamprey's Revenge. I gave up on Luther at this point. He's quite close to his healing cap, but I thought Lamprey's Revenge, they were a little bit less confident, had lower morale, so I could do as much damage to them as possible. Hopefully they will deteriorate, and we'll be able to drag down that nasty threat, and then he'll just be left with two single entities, which hopefully we'll be able to swarm. Now with that Manticore summon, the balance of power is now, for the first time I believe in the whole battle, in my favour. So my opponent does bring out his Morgul Hunter here and start chasing down my Brainsharm, which is huge. He is terrified, and I still have a Manticore summon left. There's so much value left in this caster. Really nice play by Anticity here, chasing him down and forcing him off for the moment. So decent fire so far on the Lamprey's Revenge, down to 600 health. Once again though, they did manage to win that infantry fight. Manticore does flee before going down, unfortunately, and this is a really dangerous situation for me. Lamprey's Revenge looks like they're going down, but both my units of Ungol Raiders here are tight together, and they're going to be hunted down by Luther Harkin and this Morgul Haunter, and then I don't really have much left. A couple of units of Ungol Raiders, a very beat up Morgul, and a very beat up Brainsharm, who luckily has survived here. Looks like Morgul Hunter's thinking about coming back to protect the Lamprey's Revenge, but I think he knows they're doomed. Just trying to get some damage on Morgul where he can, who of course does have regeneration himself. You can see his healing cap at the very end there, so he's got a lot of life left in him yet. And the Lamprey's Revenge, these nasty crabs, do finally go down after taking so much punishment. We even have Ungol Raiders running into combat with them, because I've used up so much of their ammunition. So at this point, my opponent just sweeping up some Ungol Raiders. Really nice play here, forcing those guys off. And I'm going to bunch up my forces for the final fight. So we're going to fast forward here. This does happen for a little while. And we were discussing the rules at the same time as well, because we were using, I believe it's Aerocrastic rules in this tournament. They tend to be his or Shetland Apaches and different ones. I believe this was Aerocrastic's rule set, which is fairly similar. I believe people are just trying out the different two. And what he should have done here is attacked with Luther Harkin straight away. Instead, he wanted to unite both his forces here, but we're both a little bit unclear on the rules anyway, and we were discussing it at the time, and as you see, he does actually attack with Luther Harkin before his Morgul Hunter anyway in the end, as we did manage to figure out kind of what was going on. So, we are going to get some back to the battle now. We'll speed up just a little bit, so it looks like he's dawdling a little bit, and thinking about it. And here he comes in for the final battle. So, I'm waiting patiently here. I defend Morgul with the unit of Ungol Raiders. Nice breath attack coming here. Use the other unit on the side to get up that little bit of ammunition. And we do summon a Feral Manticore once Luther is committed to the fight here. So, he has already used Hornswaggle up on Morgul the Shadowgate here. And then we're going to come in for some nice rear attacks. A Call of Violence popped as well on this Feral Manticore. And he should do a real good number on Luther Harkin, who no longer has the support of those crabs for protection. Morgul Hunter does float over now. And it will do pretty decent in this matchup, scaring off the Ungor Raiders, no doubt. But Morgul, pretty tough combatant in his own right, and a Feral Manticore this late in the game against a very beat up Luther Harkin is huge value for me, pushing the power balance massively, or balance of power, sorry, massively in my favour. Manticore swoops around for a nice rear attack on Luther there. There's some really nice damage on him in the end, and down goes the mad vampire genius. And with that, the rest of his forces are going to disappear, and a very, very Pyrrhic victory there at the end. So very fun game overall. Unfortunately, I think seem to have lost the secondary player played against NTSC, which is another awesome game, High Elves versus Dowie in that one. So I was going to cast that as well, but unfortunately, I think I may have accidentally deleted it while I was trying to delete something else. But yeah, super fun games, and definitely hope to fight NTSC again. Really nice build, trying to play a little bit of mind games there. He's got a little bit of range, you know, the 2 units of zombie pirate gunnery mobs and also Necrofex Colossus, but really going for a more infantry and scary army. Lamprey's Revenge coming in as well. Very powerful unit, 135 kills, 154 on the Depth Guard, 130 on that Morgul Hunter, and 147 on Luther Harkin there. Huge damage from that kind of really elite core of troops there, but it wasn't quite enough. Luckily for me, I did, in the back of my mind, think this was a possibility. Brought those Razor Herds, and yes, not massive kills, died fairly early, but they got some really nice early damage onto Luther Harkin, and also another couple of his heroes, and the Lamprey's Revenge, and so forth, and allowing my Swarm to slowly beat them down. And keeping those summons late game, I think, was really key. A lot of people use their summons almost immediately, trying to shut down backline troops, but luckily, I didn't need to. I had the Hounds, I had the Harpies, and as long as I was fairly confident that my Brave Shaman was safe, you know, forced my opponent into those pit fights, sniping him out with Ungor Raiders and so forth, I knew I'd have those in my back pocket, and they can really swing a game, or keep you in a game, and keeps that balance of power really even or in your favour. But overall, super fun game. 159 kills on 1 unit Centaurs looks really good, but I think the MVPs here, probably the Shaman with those Manticore summons, but also the Ungor Raiders, only 11, 5 and 37 kills, but they did huge damage to Necrofex Colossus, Luther Harkin and Lamprey's Revenge, and eventually managed to track those guys down. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this game. It was a competitive game, but it was also super fun. TST, really nice guy as well. Spoken to him a little bit now as I've played him in multiple tournaments. So if you do enjoy, please do hit that thumbs up button and consider subscribing and all that good stuff. But the main thing, guys, until next time, peace, and stay awesome.